While running around the room with my 18-month-old daughter, she suddenly stopped and said, "Daddy, best friend, what's the last thing your kids did that melted your heart on the spot?" This is a bit stupid, but here goes. I have a 2-year-old daughter. Every once in a while, when she's acting up, I'll jokingly say something like, "Come on, I don't deserve this. I'm a good guy." Well, a few days ago, I was helping her get dressed. She affectionately rubbed my head and said, "Good guy." I was feeling down at the time, and I realize it was mostly monkey see monkey do, but it still was the best pick me up I've ever gotten. This is awesome. I'm going to say the same thing to my kids one day. When my younger brother was about 2 and I was 14, I had to watch him for a few hours on a day when I was really sick. I tried to play with him and take care of him like I usually would, but it got to the point where I just felt too horrible. I put him in his crib and said, "I'm sorry, but I need you to sit in here for a minute." I laid down on the floor next to his crib, fully expecting him to start crying or whining. Instead, he took his pillow and blanket from his crib and threw them down to me on the floor so I could take a nap. I cried. My 20-month-old son put on my husband's shoes and headphones and started to pace and bob his head to the music exactly like my husband does. Then he stopped and laughed and said, "Look, Mama, my daddy." So funny. It's moments like those that make me stop and realize I have a miniature dude now, not a baby. Wait till the teenage years. Laundry will be fun. Interacting with a bunch of miniature dudes, if you know what I mean. For the last 6 years, my 3 siblings and I haven't seen much of our dad. He moved several states away for work and doesn't get to visit much. We still Skype him every day, but he isn't here. You know, I'm 21. I have 2 brothers that are 17 and 13, and then there's my sister. She's 9. She is the most loving little girl I have ever met, and of all the people in the world, she holds our dad in highest regard. She is the quintessential daddy's girl. From time to time, she'll have just a slight slip in speech that goes unnoticed by all but me. Sometimes, she accidentally calls me daddy. In some ways, I feel deserving of the title, as I have been her male role model for 2/3 of her life. But then I think about my dad. Try to imagine the most genuine, kind-hearted, agreeable SAP of a man, and you have my father. To be compared to him by the person that loves him most, even in an instant, is something I will never forget. My son can't really talk. He's partially verbal, but this morning, he gave me a kiss on the nose and said "thank you mama" in his own way. I cried a little. This was a huge. He made my day all day. You've got a little philosopher there, so dang cute. I was 36 years old and finally making a trip to Disney World. FL. Now you have to understand, I had always really wanted to go from when I was a small boy living in the UK, so I was already a little emotional when I finally got there with wife and kids in tow. My daughter was 5, and we rode the Flying Dumbos together. Waving to my wife and son watching us, I caught myself tearing up a little, but managed to choke it back. Then when the ride finished, my daughter stood up and bent over and kissed Dumbo on the head and told him thank you for flying us. It took everything I had not to completely break down and bawl like a baby. Tears. I had a rough breakup from a long, tough relationship. We already had 2 kids and I had one on the way. I finally called it quits when I was 4 months along with our second little girl. He pretty much abandoned all of them afterwards. It was just me and my kids for the first time in 5 years. It was freeing but also saddening. I was about 8 months along when my 3-year-old caught me in my bedroom, shedding a couple tears kind of randomly. I was sitting on the bed and he walks in and hops on my lap. He looked at me with the saddest eyes and then he just smiled. He wiped my tears away with his little hand and just put his head on my belly. He then looks at me and says, "Mommy, don't be sad. I will take care of all of my little sissies." It really touched my heart. They make my life so much better. Why can't I hold all these onions? My son is almost 3 and was never much of a cuddle-loving baby kid. The other day he walked up to me and said, "Hey mom, hold me please. I need some cuddles." I scooped him up. He kissed my cheek, wrapped his arms around my neck and said, "I love you mommy." That was the very first time he had ever done that. Sweetest moment ever. When my son was very small, I used to say goodnight to him every evening by saying night night. Don't let the bedbugs bite. His dad was gone often due to being in the military, and on his first night back he showed daddy how he learned to say goodnight. His dad laughed and kissed him. From that point on my son would say bedbugs bite, makes daddy smile. Fast forward 10 years, and my now rebellious too cool 13-year-old son said goodnight to us as we began watching the 10 o'clock news. I wrestled a kiss from him and he gave a hug to his dad. As he was walking away he mumbled bedbugs makes daddy smile. I didn't even hear it. It was just soft enough for his dad to hear. Big tough dad almost cried. This is beyond adorable. My little brother is 9. I'm 29. He's my favorite person in the world. Whenever we play DS games together he puts his head on my chest so he can see the screen. I try my best to teach him how to climb and to appreciate his weirdness. Every time I give him advice he frowns at me and say I know as if I was an idiot. I love it every time. I wish I had a brother so bad. I'm living working overseas. Wife told me today she found my baby girl, 7, crying on her bed. When asked what was wrong she said, I miss my daddy. Heart melted. Nah, more like obliterated. It hurts man. It really hurts. When they grow up they'll realize that you do what you do for them. Stay strong. It will all be appreciated soon. I love you all the way to the dead bird. I was kinda confused and asked her mother what that was supposed to mean. She laughed and explained that earlier that day they had encountered a dead bird on the street and our daughter was asking questions about it. So her mother explained that the bird is now in a different world. Far far away or something like that. Then I realized my daughter was actually referring the book Guess How Much I Love You we had been reading, where two rabbits use larger and larger measures to quantify how much they love each other, Wikipedia, and the rabbits say things like I love you all the way to the farthest tree of the forest. In her mind, that mysterious place where the dead bird has gone to was incredibly far away, not even in our world. So saying I love you all the way to the dead bird was her way to tell me that she loves me unimaginably much. LOL, so cute. My 3-year daughter did something similar to this. We were going back and forth saying we loved each other more and comparing distances, so I decided to end it by saying I loved her all the way to the moon. And she replied quite matter-of-factly with well I love you all the way to Pluto. Well played child. Well played. While I was pregnant with my first child, my little brother walked up to me, shook my belly a little, and said wake up baby, I want to play. Hurry up and come out, then pointed to himself and said Uncle Jordan with a big grin on his face. So cute. My daughter calls my strainer the spaghetti stay, water go, and my youngest responds specifically to baby kisses. Please, she runs around the whole room giving everyone a kiss until she's done. 3. I like to imagine your little brother is 25 and just really weird. It's different, but I remember the first time my little brother said my name. Mine was the last name he learned to say, and I tried to teach him nicknames instead. I was in the kitchen, and he was in the living room when I heard him start yelling one of the nicknames over and laughing. I ran in and he gave me a big sunny smile and said my name and yelled sis top volume. I still smile thinking about it 20 years later. My 3-year-old stepdaughter was putting her swimsuit on in the bathroom as we were about to go in the pool on one of the 100-degree days we had the other week. I'm waiting for her outside of the bathroom, and she goes Nidux. I answer what can you come in please? So I go in thinking she needs help getting ready. As soon as I open the door, I see she's ready to go. But right then she looks at me and says Nidux, I love you, and smiles. I love you too. 3333333333333333333333333333333. I kept on trying to figure out what a Nidux was. He's not my kid by blood, but my GF's son is rapidly becoming mine as well. Last time I was over, I had to leave before his bedtime. He ran over, hugged my leg, and said in his little 3-year-old voice, "No, don't go. I want you to stay." Dang. It took a lot to keep from crying. He didn't come out of my belly, but my god, I've made his bones, because I've attended to every meal, and how he sleeps, and the fact that he swims like a fish because I took him to the ocean. I'm so proud of all his things, but he is my biggest pride. John Lennon about his non-biological son. My daughter is turning 4 in November and I recently told her that she is going to go to school soon. She has never been with anyone but me and my parents. She looked up at me and her eyes started watering. She started bawling and said, "But I'll miss you so much, mommy." She grabbed me and held on like I was gonna leave her forever. Then she farted on me and told me that means she loves me. Actually, she may be right. I just checked in my copy of the parent manual and kids' farts are, in fact, legally binding contracts of love. I had lost my job. I sat my 2 daughters, then 10 and 8, down to explain to them what was going on. I explained that I would be finding a new job, but for a while, things could be a little rough. My younger daughter bounced away, maybe not understanding. My older girl stayed with me for a moment longer. I told her not to worry. She said, "I'm not worried. You always take good care of us." Then she hugged me and continued her day. That was the day I learned what pure faith looked like. And what my daughter thought of me. It still chokes me up when I remember her simply stated confidence in her daddy. I was playing with my niece tonight and I started playing dead. As I lay there, I noticed her out of the corner of my eye that she looked confused. She shook me for a little bit, tried to cover my mouth to make me breathe harder, etc. But nothing brought me out of my pretend death. The next thing she did was heart-wrenching. She said in the most innocent voice ever, "No, Peter, don't go away. Broke my freaking heart. Love that little girl." Lucky for you, whenever I play dead, my 20-month-old nephew just slaps me in the face. I was driving to the movies with my 10-year-old son last week. He turned, looked at me and said, "Daddy, you are a great role model." While yelling, "God dang it, you are the worst freaking drivers in the universe." I just adopted a 4-year-old who's been having a tough time. He came up to me today and said, "I think I actually like it here. I love my new family. You're doing amazing." This happened the other day. I was in the bathroom getting ready for the day when my 5-year-old daughter comes in. She likes to watch me brush my hair and such, so I'll let her come in and sit down. Out of nowhere she says, "Mommy, I love you. I love you more than flowers." I almost died from cuteness overload, but I managed to say, "And I love you more than rainbows." Then we hugged and she went on about her business. AWW. This just reminded me how I used to always watch my mom brush her hair in the mornings when I was growing up, and when I was little I used to think her hair was like a princess's or movie stars. I'm 22 years older than my brother and had moved out before he was born. When he was 3-ish, our mum was trying to explain to him who I am, random adult woman that shows up at their house, and explained the concept of sister. He said, "No, sissy is mommy, and mommy is mommy too. Too cute to handle. Sister's my new mother." When someone asked her what she wanted to grow up and be, she looked straight at me and said, "I want to be just like my mama." Needless to say, it brought tears to my eyes. The twist is that you are her dad. My 2-year-old son sees me off every morning at the front door as I leave for work yelling, "See you later, Dada. Be careful, Dada. I loves you, Dada." He stays at the door until I drive out of sight. My wife holds my 9-month-old daughter every morning when I leave so she can wave to me. My daughter is just 1 year old. I took my family on vacation. We brought some toys for her. I picked one up, pressed a button and music started playing. She looked at me and smiled, got up and walked to me with her arms open and fell into me, hugging me, making this sound she does when she's happy. And for the rest of our vacation she kept grabbing this specific toy and bringing to me to press the button for her. Wow, that was vivid. One of the 5-year-old girls I teach ballet to came up to me after class and gave me a hug. She looked up at me and asked, "Do you have any babies?" I laughed and said no. She frowned, then said, "Oh, well, you'd be a good mommy. I know that because I like you lots." Gave me something to smile about for the rest of the day, especially because this was the first thing she ever said to me. My little nephew has gone through a lot in his short little 8 years on this planet. His mom is nuts and my stepbrother isn't exactly the most attentive dad. It's pretty obvious the kid doesn't get near the attention he needs, but still such the sweetest, best behaved kid I know. One day I took him and my niece to a water park. and after a few good minutes of chasing them with a squirt gun, Isaiah stops dead in his tracks as if he's about to ask a very important question. "Hey Aunt Mallow," he says with a slight stutter, "will you be my best friend Melt?" We call my niece Juju, and earlier today I told her I love Juju. "Do you love Juju?" and she says no. So I ask her why and she says because she doesn't like her face. Naturally, I'm crushed, so I ask her why she doesn't like her face and she tells me because it's too much beautiful. I almost passed out on account of how cute that was. She's 4 next month. Encourage this. My younger sister asked me, at age 5, how many calories were in a Cheeto, because she thought she was fat, and it broke my heart. Do as much as you can to ensure she keeps loving herself for as long as possible. I have a 4-year-old niece that I help support, and the other day she comes up to me and says, "You will always protect me, right uncle?" I told her of course, and then she says, "Good. Hey, let's be zombies for Halloween." I don't know why, but for some reason, your comment broke the dam for me. I was all cool and collected until your comment, then I cried. Not my child, but my cousin's 7-year-old daughter. Once, when she was visiting, she had to go home. She pouted and ran away and sat on the stairs in my house. Instead of putting her shoes on, I sat next to her and put my arm around her and asked her what was wrong. Her reply is the sweetest thing I've ever heard, and it's the reason I'm still alive. "I love you so much. I don't wanna go home. I wanna stay here with you forever." And she hugged me and cried. I cried too, though I never admitted it. Wrestling with my 3-year-old boy, and as we rest to catch our breath, my breath obviously, he says, "Daddy, stay with me forever." Then I had to go to work. Frick the world. Call into work dead. My almost 6-year-old daughter and I were watching Mamma Mia Shut It. I love ABBA, and it gets to the scene where they talk about giving the bride away, and they prepare for the wedding. My daughter asks what all that means. So, I explain it's an old tradition where the father of the bride pretends to give the bride to her new husband so they can be their own family, and it's part of the wedding ceremony even though it's an outdated idea. She got quiet, and we watched the movie for a few more minutes. The next time I looked at her, she had these big fat hairs sliding down her face. I stopped everything and asked her if she was okay. She walked over and said, "I don't want you to give me away. I want to stay and play with you forever." We had a big Olay cry and cuddle together, and I assured her that she would always be my baby girl. I love that kid more than anything. I was driving my 2-year-old son to his mom's house, where he lives most of the time. Him. "I miss you, Daddy." Me. "I'm right here, big guy. How can you miss me?" Him. "Number. When you're gone. Heart. Broken." I have a 2.5-year-old little boy who's really starting to communicate pretty well. Just seeing him grow mentally before my eyes is really mind-blowing and heartwarming at the same time. One of the first short conversations that really blew my mind with him was, "Me, Brody, do you want to go to the playground?" B, "No, I don't want to go to the playground. How about Skyrim?" Me, "You're too young to play Skyrim." B, "No, I wanna watch Daddy do it." Man, tears JPG. When I met my, now, wife, she had an 8-year-old daughter. I was a bit scared at first, but this little girl turned out to be quite awesome. After about a year of being together, she hands me a note with a big heart, colored in and "I love you" written on it, and runs off. She's now 14, still just as awesome, and I still have that note in the visor of my car. Sometimes, when stuck in traffic, I take it out and smile at the memory. Second story, she calls me by my first name, but one day she says to me, "What would you do if I called you Dad?" I swallowed hard and said, "I'd be very happy if you did, but you don't have to. You can call me whatever you want." She thinks for a while and says, "My soul wants to call you Dad, but my brain isn't listening." Don't worry, my brain has made me do some pretty stupid things. She'll come around. I don't have a kid, but my brother said this to me. We were in Ireland for a holiday and also so my mum could catch up with family. I was, and still am, hopefully saying that won't get me downvoted. 14 years old, my brother, 9, sister, 12, and I were down in the park that was near where we were staying. Our parents decided we had been there too long and came to fetch us. While leaving the park, I offered my brother a piggyback ride. He hopped up onto my back and suddenly said, "Someday, you are going to be a great father." He is the best brother I could wish for. 14 and still more grammatically poised than most of your older fellow Redditors. Congrats. The day about 2 years ago when for the millionth time someone said you look just like your mother and she very politely said thank you. She is 13 now. My heart melted. I used to hate when I was a kid and everyone would tell me you look so much like your mother. Now that she's passed away, it feels nice to hear it. People see me and think of her. I keep her memory alive in people's minds. My younger sibling was very nearly killed in an industrial electrical accident and was being airlifted to a burn unit 100 miles away. When I found out I was, understandably, very rattled and I asked my 3-year-old little boy's mom to pick him up while I regroup. While we were sitting in my truck waiting for her to show up and he was strapped into his car seat in the back seat, I explained that Uncle Jay was very badly hurt. My son tried to comfort me that the doctors would make him all better. He then said, "Daddy, you need a hug. Come here and give me a hug." And he gestured me towards him strapped into his car seat. That moment will last forever, and even considering the terrible circumstances is one of my cherished memories. My brother survived and is okay. I call my son Buddy, unique and different. I know. We were playing on the floor, wrestling around, laughing and having a good time when he excitedly says to me, "Daddy and Buddy," and proceeded to hug me the best he could. I immediately ran into the bathroom and started to pluck my nose hairs to replace the unfamiliar smile on my face with the cold, emotionless expression I'm accustomed to. The kids, man, they're kryptonite to masculinity. That was so sweet. Then I spotted your username. Now I feel weird. Oh. My 5-year-old son was playing with a mini lightsaber, an M&M toy, slashing it about like he meant business. He then says very sternly, as if to his opponent, "No one messes with my mommy." And I mean no one. That is just so adorable. A friend and mentor of mine has a 21-month-old boy that absolutely hates me. No idea why, he just doesn't. It's actually pretty funny in a way. He just shuts down when I'm around. In any case, a few weeks ago, I walked up to say hello to the friend, then sat down to say hello to the little guy. Instead of his usual pretend I'm sleepy fuss that he does, he looked me square in the eye, waved one hand, and simply said bye. Then he ignored me. I don't know why, but that was probably one of the most hilarious and adorable things I've seen in a long time. He knows. My 2-year-old nephew and I were sitting on the couch watching Yo Gabba Gabba the other night before his bedtime when all of a sudden he scooted all the way over to me and crawled under my arm so it was around him. I looked down at him and he just smiled, and within 15 minutes he was fast asleep. It didn't melt my heart but gave me pause for thought. Why does Santa give poor children such crappy presents? They deserve the best ones. I worked at a daycare center with 3-year-olds. I liked asking them random questions to hear their answers. One day, I asked one, "Who's your best friend?" She said, "You," and hugged me. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.